Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live interview from the European Parliament here in Brussels. Novaya Gazeta, one of the most important independent media outlets of Russia, has recently announced its decision to halt its publications until the end of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome its deputy editor, Kirill Martynov, who will tell us about disinformation and journalism in Russia, as well as the mood in Moscow as he sees it. So first of all, Mr. Martynov, I am welcome to have you here today. Thank you for your time.
And thank you so much. Yes.
Before we get underway with the interview, I'd like our followers to send us their questions and comments, and I'll try to put as many as possible to my guest in the next half an hour or so. So, Mr. Martynov, this morning you met the political leaders of the European Parliament. What message did you deliver to them?
Well, I said them that they are basically doing great because Mr. Putin, of course, President Putin, believed that West is weak, and European Union in particular is weak organization. That Europeans just can't fight against this war. And I feel like and everyone understands, besides maybe President Putin himself, that he was wrong already. And that the European unity and European support for Ukraine is as high as it can be possible, because economical strike of sanctions on Russian economy is very huge. Every person in Russia feels it now, and I feel like Kremlin regime would have a very big social and economical problems within weeks or maybe months. And also I told Parliament that I feel like we have the only one dream for now, me and my fellow journalist, which can't work in Russia for now. We have only one dream. We want to fight again, to fight for freedom of speech. And I ask Parliament for support.
What is the current mood like in Moscow now, and how widespread is Russian support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
Well, it's a complicated question. I mean, the second part of it, because we have no good sociological data. You can imagine if you are a citizen which involved in war, and officials said everyone who is against war can face criminal prosecution. And I ask you, what do you think about war? Is it good enough? And you say, no, I don't want to say. And this is basically what happened when we tried to interview Russians for now, because as my fellow sociologist, my friend said, they tried to call 30,000 of Russians and ask about so-called special operation, and 29,000 of them was just declined to answer. And so you can imagine what is the mood in Russia. So I feel like there is a group of Russians which is, of course, support war. And this group is strong because it works together with Russian state propaganda, and it's a kind of dance macabre, dance of death, which is imposed on Ukraine and Russian society too. The other group of Russians, I believe, they, or we, better to say, we are strongly against war. We feel like we have a personal responsibility and personal duty to stop this war, and we spend our time, we spend our days to find some solutions how we can do this, what we can do else to stop this war. We have no mass protests in Russia because people just afraid, and the third and largest group of Russian citizens is a kind of conformists, people who just don't understand what to do now. They just pretend to be safe. They just to take care about their families, and I feel like we can fight for the mood of this largest group, basically. And the real problem for me, like journalist, is I believe that the main problem is not in the question of sources of independent information. Yes, most Russians do not have access to independent information. Yes, it's a huge problem. After we stop our publishing in Russia, there is no more independent large media, and Russians have just only state propaganda, and it's a kind of disaster, of course, for a society. It's totally blind for now. But I feel like Russians still have information on YouTube and on some other social media like Telegram. And the real problem here is many Russians, and probably most of the Russians, just don't want to do it. They don't want to see the truth, because if you see the truth, if you feel that Russian state and President Putin and his army invaded Ukraine and started this cruel and senseless war, then you have to ask yourself, who are we? Who are we? Because we all our history books teach us that Russians are basically good people. We defeated Nazis. We stopped the largest and most cruelest war in the world history. And this is the center of our national mythology. It's the center of our national identity. And if you see truth, you can understand that you have no rights to this historical heritage. You have to find some new identity. Basically, for Russians to see the truth about war in Ukraine is to not to be themselves anymore. Yeah. And so they just decline. They just pretend just nothing special has happened. The main error in Russian society, many of my compatriots, most of them, still believe that normal life will soon return. And it's absolutely senseless belief.
And to follow up with your answer, you mentioned that people can get information from YouTube and Telegram, but many of the social media are now blocked, right?
Yeah.
So what type
Facebook
of information
is blocked and more. You know, it's in this in this disaster, in this very sad situation, we have a lot of small funny stories, and one of them is that what are we doing now? It's an extremistic community for Russians. So if you use Facebook for online translation, probably we are a part of a large extremistic organization, maybe this parliament.
Novaya Gazeta was one of the remaining independent news outlets standing in Moscow. How did you decide to cease its operations until the end of Russian aggression of Ukraine?
Well, basically, I can't describe all the facts we have public because of the safety reasons, but I can say that these warnings from Russian censorship agency Roskomnadzor was just a formal thing here, because the real problem is we feel like that in these days after 28th of March, to continue publishing text in Russia is just too dangerous in terms of personal safety of journalists and all staff of Novaya Gazeta. So we suspend the publishing activity because we just feel it's unsafe for people. Because people really can face criminal prosecutions, and of course it have nothing common with law or moral and so on, because this criminal prosecution can be traced just to our rights to name war. So in Russia, for now, it's criminal prosecution, and it's still unbelievable. Like no one can imagine. Besides of American intelligence and President Biden, no one can really imagine that Putin can did it. I personally did not believe this, because I feel like he can probably declare the independence of so-called Donetsk People Republic, and then everything will stop. But no one can still believe that. No of journalists, I mean, can still believe that you can just write war in newspaper, because, for example, our newspaper covered two Chechenian wars, and it was a huge conflict inside Russian society and with Russian authorities about this war. But at that times we can at least write about war and call it war. And for now it's just a different state. It's a kind of tyranny probably.
Yeah, so you have just said, journalists cannot describe the conflict as war or neither this invasion, right? And also under the new law, people face up to 15 years of jail when they spread information that they consider false information. So how did this affect your job and the job of independent journalists in Russia?
I strongly believe that for now there is no opportunities to work in Russia like an independent journalist. It's not just unsafe; it's become a bit stupid because when you just do your professional work, you can face prison just for it, not for some hero, not for some heroical attitude, not for something great. You just go to your office, and after that you can be arrested. So it's not just useful in any sense. And I believe that for now many of Russian independent media start to operate outside Russia, and it's a kind of underground spies activities, because it's not usual for a journalist, of course, and it's probably against our professional ethics. But you can imagine that if you want to report something about inside Russia, you have work anonymously, you have no name, and you have no official connections with this media. So it's like underground operation for now, and I feel like it's a future for Russian journalism for next weeks, months, and maybe years. But our editor-in-chief, Dmitry Muratov, who got Nobel Peace Prize last year, he just a bit optimistic here. He believes that in some situation we can probably start to operate in Moscow legally again. I'm not sure about this, but I appreciate his opinion, of course.
Well, so we were mentioning before how people get informed now in Russia. Did the number of readers of Novaya Gazeta change in the last months?
Oh, yes, it was an absolute record in our history, because only on our website, and we don't count social media public here. So we have more than 2 million of people daily on our website only. And of course, it's a very large public interest, because you can imagine if people go to website, that your headlines are spreading a lot wider because of social media, and many people just discuss this. So I feel like we in this case we really was a national scale newspaper for Russia, and I'm very proud of our journalists, because we did it longer than any. So we was the last independent media which decided to suspend its activities because of safety reason, but we do it after 34 days after the outbreak of war.
We have a live question from one of our viewers. Well, you mentioned briefly that you cannot really track how many people are aware of the situation in Ukraine, but David May on YouTube says, what percentage of the Russian people know what's going on?
Sorry?
What percentage of the Russian people know what's going on? Percentage. What number of people, or like?
Well, I believe millions of them. And if let's say for official data said that 1/4 of Russians do not support war, and if we count childs, 1/4 of Russians is 36 millions. And I believe that a lot of more people understand what's happening. So let's say maybe half of Russia. But it's for many people it's just too hard to say it public and to understand what happened in terms of national identity we described later.
Yeah. So Novaya Gazeta was one of the only Russian newspapers or Russian news outlets with a correspondent in the front lines.
We're proud of it, yes.
But will this person continue working there?
I'm not sure I can say it, but probably for now, yes, because I told with Yelena Kostyuchenko, our brilliant, our best reporter, which was she's incredible, brave journalist. She worked for the whole month in Ukraine. She twice crossed the front line when he go to occupied city of Kherson, and after that go back to Ukraine territory. She worked there with Russian passport. Russian passport is not so in a big value of these days in Ukraine and even in Europe. And I told with her yesterday, and she said she's quitting now. She need a break, and we have another reporter will continue to work. And the question is where we have to publish his text, but I think we can somehow solve it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Martynov, I'd like to read one of the comments from our audience. This comes from Marga, and she has just posted in YouTube. Kirill Martynov is a remarkable scholar, philosopher, and journalist. Novaya Gazeta has paid the price to tell its readers the truth with the life of 6 of its journalists. Thanks to Novaya from Bulgaria.
I very appreciate this kind words. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And also, Adrian on Facebook says, do you think Putin is capable to use the nuclear weapons?
Basically, yes. And it was really strange to realize this. Just because a month ago, just because if he can to start this war, why he can't to raise stakes even more? And of course, it was in his words and in his eyes, it would just be a case for defending our homeland from the evil empire of lies, how he described these institutions, for example. 2 days ago, Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary of Putin, said that they does not believe that nuclear war can be using of nuclear war can be possible in case of special operation. And it was, it was a kind of liberalization of the discourse, maybe just because the war situation is not so good for Russian side.
So, Mr. Martynov, you are here in Brussels today. What can the European Union do to help Russian journalists speaking against Putin's regime and committed to reporting the truth?
I believe we need an example. We need an example of different countries that works together, that support each other, that don't go to war, that probably the authorities of which probably read Kant somehow and know that war is not so good solution. And we need an example for stronger values and this unity of values. And after that, I believe if we share these common values, we can have a lot of good media and cultural projects, and we have to solve how to work in this situation, how to continue to work in this situation, and basically how to deliver our information to the wide public inside Russia. And I feel like European Union is already do this job with Novaya Gazeta, with other Russian journalists in exile, like Dost, like what's remain of Echo Moskvy, which was banned by the owner of the company, of the media company. I feel like we have a good efforts.
And how will you continue your journalistic work? And plus, how do you intend to continue with the work of Novaya Gazeta?
Well, for safety reason, I can't answer this question. I'm sorry, but I feel like we don't stop. We don't stop, and I talked with a guy from BBC who just say probably you have some journalistic, this kind of media instincts which brings you further. And I said, yes, it's good. These days when we can publish our texts, I just looks for news like always every morning, and I just think what reporter can do this news, who can cover this story for us. And after that, I realized, we have for now these days we have no newspaper what to do. Mm-hmm. But I believe these instincts will bring us further, and I believe we will come back, and I hope this resurrection of Novaya Gazeta would be nice, and we can continue these traditions of Politkovskaya and all of our other great reporters.
But I've just learned from our viewer that you are also a philosopher.
Yeah.
So have you ever worked as such?
Sorry?
Have you ever worked as a philosopher?
Yes, I worked like a philosopher for the whole of my life, and I was first I was fired from Higher School of Economics 2 years ago because of criticizing of President Putin. And after that, we created a new project with our professors, which was fired from higher school of economics. It calls Free Moscow University. It's a kind of online university in exile, and for now we are looking for opportunities to communicate with European institutions, and I feel like we have good opportunities for now. We are strongly, like this institution, like Free University, we are strongly against war. Students, teachers, and our self-government supported this position. I'm very proud about this. And it's again, it's a small funny story for me, because just at the start of this, at the start of March, I was fired twice, 2 times or 3 times from different Russian state educational institutions in Moscow. It was simple like this. You just come, the war started. You just came to students and you tell them, war is bad. We're gonna fight against war. Peace is much better, and so on. Such simple ways. And after that, someone in administration tell you, it's too dangerous for us to have such a teacher in our university. Can you somehow pretend that you live on your own? Just we have no prosecution for you and for us. And I said, of course, it's my duty to live in this situation. And but I feel like we have some sources, some instruments to recreate partly this educational system, educational space for Russian students. And many of my former students I teach in official Russian institutions. For now they are students in Free Moscow University, and I feel like it's only the beginning. So I like this story about philosopher riots. We discussed newspaper riots, and for now, newspaper riots is a special term because for me, because we got a lot of help from different newspapers around the globe. From American newspapers, they offer us to publish our texts on their pages. And rioting philosophers, it's what I always like, so it's a good opportunity for me.
Good. Parliament's Special Committee on Foreign Interference has recently called for sanctions on foreign interference and information manipulation. What could the European Union do to tackle both disinformation in Russia and in the European Union as well?
Well, I believe that we have to. They have to support those people those organizations who struggle against disinformation. I feel like this kind of work. They do a lot of disinformation, but we check this and said no, that was disinformation. It's a good instrumental solution, good solution in the narrow sense of word. But what I believe, we have to recreate media sphere for Russia. We need television. We need independent radio stations. We need independent websites, and maybe even illegal printing newspapers inside Russia. And I feel a lot of people just want to do it. So I feel like we can communicate with the European Union and try to do it together, because we have common interest. We don't like disinformation either. So the best solution for disinformation is information.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Martynov, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. I wish you all the best for your future work. Please remember that at 2 p.m., if you want to know more about disinformation in the light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, you can tune in the European Parliament website, because there will be a webinar for journalists on disinformation, yes, and member of the Parliament, Rafael Gluckman, and other speakers will be talking about it. So thank you, all of you, for tuning in once again, and have a good afternoon. Have a good afternoon.